Okay, in the last video, the bucket list, I failed to let you know about what happens if you don't have any money, because that can become a real obstacle to a bucket list. That's one of the first things we talk ourselves out of it because, oh well, I don't have any money. Well, you don't need any money to do a lot of this stuff. Believe it or not, there's ways around it, and if you just put it out into the universe, it's going to happen. Let me give you an example. My sister came to live with me back in the 80s, and she wanted to go to Nicaragua. They were having some conflict down there, and there was a lot of things that were going on, and she really felt an association with those people down there that she thought maybe she could go down there and give them a hand. And I told her, I said, you don't need, she said, I don't have any money. I don't, I can't, how am I going to get a plane ticket down there? And I said, listen, you don't need money to travel. You can, it'll all work out. Believe me. I said, you put it out to the universe. You don't worry about the details. And yeah, you have to do your footwork, but people will show up in your life and things will happen. So she took it to heart and she started doing her study on the internet. And she found an organization called the Ben Linder Group. It was a group that was formed by the parents of Ben Linder. He had died down there, and they had organized a bunch of people that were helping the people out down there, and they needed volunteers. So my sister got a hold of them, and the next thing you know it, she not only went to Nicaragua once, but she went twice. So I just wanted to mention that to you. Don't let obstacles stand in your way of your bucket list. Okay, so we're going to move on now. We're going to move on to a topic, rage and anger management. And one of the biggest things that people tend to do is things that have happened to them in their past. They tend to hang on to it. That's what we call baggage. And because they do that, every little thing that comes along that is emotionally related to the thing that happened, that was the drama and the trauma that happened in their past, uh, who knows how far back, or even yesterday. But those emotional triggers come up, and it washes your whole body with all that fight, flight, or freeze, adrenaline, cortisol, and all these things that happen to your body that shouldn't happen to them on a regular basis, but it does because you keep remembering these things. So these are stories that we tell ourselves over and over again, and they have dire consequences too. The stories of pain, betrayal, hurt, fear, longing, abuse, would have, should have, could have, all those things are all part of that. So just as in the football games where you see the instant replay going, or the basketball or baseball game, our minds have this similar mechanism that allows this loop to play again. But the only problem is when it plays again in our minds, the mechanism analyzes and tweaks your part in the process. And it eliminates your responsibility for the role that you played in the perception of what really happened. With the TAT protocol, we're able to not go through this cathartic experience and reliving all the trauma and drama and the emotional attachments that happened to whatever went on in your world. It allows you to sit back like you're in the audience and you're looking at what happened on a screen as you're detached from this. And you can watch the screen and you can see factually what happened. And then you can gain ownership. And once you gain ownership of that, you can do something with it. So, let's go back to the story about what normally we do about these resentments that we have. We seem to have this story that it tells us day and night about what's going on and about how much you hate this person or institution or whatever it might be. That's the self-talk that we have. And that self-talk is closer to your pillow, is closer to you than your pillow at night when you go to sleep. And in fact, it does keep you up at night. So there's a famous saying about if you're intent on resolving your revenge, it might be suggested that you dig two graves, one for the object of your revenge and one for you. Now, the loop not only runs in your mind, but it's a constant part of your entire world and universe. It puts the poor me out to everybody that you come in contact with. Poor me. It puts the story about, and what you do is you offer that story to maybe a stranger, and all of a sudden you find out who's going to take the bait, the hook, line, and sinker. And sure enough, you'll find somebody that'll associate with you and say, oh yeah, I know what that's like. I mean, I've been through that same thing, that poor me, that betrayal, the hurt, the pain, the loss. In fact, loss is my middle name. So let me tell you my story. And then bingo, you two bond. Well, this is an area of our life that extends out, like I say, into the universe. And as you venture through, it still keeps going around and around. Well, the issue is how to get rid of it and how to deal with it. But let's finish up with more about this loop that we play. All of the things that you have endured and the special circumstances that you have had and put your life through, you take them very personal. You take it to heart. And that's why it hurts so bad. That's why there's so much of an emotional attachment to it. So the closer it's held to your soul and heart, the more hurt and pain you experience. So you have created what essentially is a victim inside you. It becomes the victim mentality. All right, let's continue. As you tell your story to yourself and others, remember that you are allowing that who you hate so much free space in your mind that it's ridiculous. Not only free space, but it's also free rent. It's kind of like your mind is a house and there's a master bedroom in the very top or a main bedroom in the very top. And in that bedroom, it's huge, but you've rented it out to that person that you resent because they occupy that space. They occupy that space 24/7. They never leave. They have their groceries brought in, for crying out loud. So the more you have that run that loop, the more you've given up your power. But oh no, you want to hold on to that resentment, pain, betrayal, the hurt, because that's, you want to hang on to it for dear life. Even though it's eating you alive, it's eating up every part of your being. You insist on continuing this line of thought. After all, how would you be able to continue on your life without the wounds and the baggage and the pain that you've been carrying around for God knows how long? Way back to when it happened. And it could have been as years ago or it could have been last week. The story, as it continues, causes your mind to become foggy, unclear, and prevents you from acting in your best interest. Little things can set you off again because it's an emotional charge. These things that happen to you are filled with emotions. And so what they do is it's like re-experiencing it again. It's like going through the whole hurt and pain and loss again. So when this occurs, your body reacts wildly. It dumps cortisol into your bloodstream and free fatty acids and hormones, and all of these things are all excited by these emotional things that have happened as you recall this thing, all of which causes your body to break down. There's many studies involved with how this can affect your body. I mean, these are experiences, these are fight, flight, or freeze experiences that should only be experienced maybe every other month, maybe when you're driving the freeway or something, or you have an earthquake, a little 5.0 earthquake happens around here, and you get a little excitement from that. But good Lord, we get it when we're watching the news. And these things just come up again, or some little part of something somebody says, it'll start to trigger that again. So the cause is very caustic to your system. The toxic caustic is detrimental to your whole body. The eruption of the emotions and the trauma that are brought to mind has a deadly effect on you. As I told you about their studies, it lowers your immune system, it drives down your T cell count, and it suppresses your fighter cells. And this invites all kinds of diseases and ailments and imbalance into your world and into your being. It's just not fair to yourself. But when we use the TAT protocol, we're going to be able to resolve these things and not have to carry them around anymore. Okay, as you turn more and more of your mind over to the other person, you lose more and more of your personal power. And I'm all about regaining your personal power. We have a right to joy, happiness, and freedom. It's an inherent right that we've been given. But we muck it up with our self-talk. And so one of the things that I say is that once we clear the wreckage of the past and start to live freely today, our tomorrow is going to look much different than it was before. When we make our past selves jealous of our present selves, that's when we begin to live. When we start to set targets in our world, when we start to, in fact, Dr. Jordan Peterson talks about sin, and he tells us that sin is missing the target. Well, there's a lot around missing the target. I mean, first of all, you have to have a goal or an aim or a target. That's number one. Then you got to have the bow and you got to have the arrow. You got to take aim, and you also got to try and hit it. Well, yeah, a lot of us are sinning because we don't have any of those elements in our world. And this is this kind of thing that we need to do. Once we get a hold of getting rid of the past, then we're able to start focusing on what's good for us. We start tuning into ourselves so we can feel our feelings and feel who we are and how we operate and learn more about ourselves, understanding this mystic being that we are. And then when we start making these adjustments, not living in the past, but starting to live in the now, then we can start making adjustments to our future. And our future will change because we've taken back our power. So that's a big thing. So I have a little exercise that'll help you to start with getting rid of some of these resentments and things. So as you, what I want you to do is go in the bathroom mirror and get in the bathroom and look yourself deep in your soul, deep down, and tell yourself that you forgive yourself, because that's the number one person that we really need to forgive. It isn't all these other people that we have to forgive. We really need to forgive ourselves so we can be at peace. That's what keeps us up at night, is what the regrets, the wishes, the shoulda, woulda, couldas of all the things that we didn't or did do or didn't do. So we need to forgive ourselves. But it took me 3 weeks to dance around that mirror. This was like in February of 1979. And I finally got to the point where I was saying, well, yeah, I'm not such a bad guy. And yeah, I would never do this kind of thing again. Or I don't, there's probably a reason why I didn't do what I didn't do or what should have done. And I'm going to be a different person now. I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to be more conscious of if I'm hurting other people or myself. And so finally I was able to get to the point that I said, I kind of like you. And then I was able to say that I love myself. And then finally I was able to say, you know what? I forgive you. And all is well.